afternoon. So I'm feeling a little bit better. Well, I was, and then I went downhill again and then come back, and this flu has just knocked me for six. So yesterday I spent some time potting on my tomatoes and sowing some seeds, weeding the beds, and actually getting some things planted in. I finally got some of my spinach that I actually sowed a while ago into the actual beds. The kohlrabi's in, the lettuces that I had that had overgrown in tray are all in, and I'm feeling much better with the stage that I need to be at. Now, growing vegetables is not a race, it's not anything else. I'm just trying to fit more into my growing season. Now, last year we really did miss out a lot on our growing season. We were not prepared enough to actual successional plant after we've harvested our first lot. This year I'm trying to get that right. It's not always easy though. The weather can really dictate on your seasons to grow, and so having a greenhouse or a polytunnel or a cold frame really can help with this issue. So today I need to take a look at the mound. The mound is somewhere that we had, it's kind of had been kind of a natural dumping ground of any soil that we actually didn't want. And I've got some foxgloves and some wildflower to actually going in it today. So I'm going to get on with that in a bit and get those planted up. I sowed the foxgloves last year from seed and multicolour one. So who knows what colours they're going to be. And I've just literally left them in the garden to do their own thing. So they really do need to be planted today. Now I've finally got some bits into this mound, but I think I'm going to get a load more wildflower. Now we do have more comfrey growing here, which is great for the bees. The foxgloves are left to dry out a little bit for a couple of days accidentally, but they're in and they'll pick up. But all these wild little flowers are fantastic for the bees, even the good old dandelions. We've even got some little bulbs in here. The onions that we transplanted probably just over a week ago are doing really well as well. Don't know whether you can see them through the net, but I've got them covered, and that's the one bed, and this is the one bed of seedlings. All of them are perked up after being pretty much flat from transplanting. So fingers crossed we'll actually get a half decent harvest. Now we do put the net up because of foxes, pigeons, crows, all sorts of things that cause us issues. The kohlrabi's are all doing absolutely fine. Now normally I plant a lot more kohlrabi's, but this year I'm just doing a few. I never actually got round to eating as many as I hoped for last year. Now all of the spinach is in as well. And we have a Polo, Lazio and Perpetual in the ground at the moment. Now the ones that we planted with the yellow leaves are actually perking up, which is good. The beetroots are also doing really, really well. These were in modules which were transplanted a few weeks ago now, and they were all producing new leaves. Even the pak choi that had been eaten is actually restarting to grow again. Still doesn't look very good, but it's a lot better than what it was. My husband sowed some mange too a little while ago, and they've actually gone into the ground as well. And we will continuously sow this for a couple of months, well, for a few months, so we can get more of a crop, because I love mange too fresh off the actual plant. We've also got our sprouts in as well. Again, we've gone a bit little earlier this year. I think we've got such a busy spring that we're trying to do what we can when we can, and they should be absolutely fine outdoors. At the moment, not too much damage from slugs. Broad beans as well are doing quite well, and they've actually started to flower. Now, my husband decided to sow extra plants in between after the foxes got to them at the very beginning, and now there's 2 different varieties, but the dwarf Sutton has actually started to flower already. As you can see, the peas are doing good as well. So as you can see as well, the lettuces that I planted the other day that were extremely sorry for themselves after being transplanted and ripped apart, they've all picked up and they're doing very well where they are. Now, I've got to be careful with this bed because I found this year actually that it's been very, very wet in this bed. Now, any future herbs that I actually get will not be in this bed. I think for the Mediterranean herbs and things like that, I think it may well be too wet. Even though it's very free draining and the thyme is the only thing that actually has survived herb-wise in this bed, I think I'm going to make some changes and just keep it strawberries and lettuces and things that like a little bit more shade, because half the bed is actually in a lot of shade for most of the year. Even the parsley and the coriander that I planted a few days ago in between the garlic, absolutely fine. Not too much damage from anything. But obviously there's always that risk. We'll be doing absolutely fine and then we'll come down one morning and slugs have decimated a whole area. Now, one of the things that I will be doing very soon, I was supposed to be doing it today, but I forgot an important item, was beer traps for the slugs and snails. I don't like using slug pellets. Now, the husband's very happy to use them and he would rather have plants than worry about anything else. But slug pellets for me is just something that just damages so many different animals. But I don't begrudge people using them. It's your own personal choice. But for me, I hate them. And this is an area that me and my husband will argue quite a lot about. So I'm going to sneak in some beer traps because he reckons it's not going to work. And I'm going to give it a go. Because in one way he is right. We are losing more items due to slugs and snails than actually what we've got in produce. Even though we've reduced the slug and snail habitat on our plot as much as possible, there is still issues that we have with slugs and snails. Now, the purple sprout and broccoli managed to survive all that really hard frost and snow that we had at the beginning of the year, and it's actually looking quite good. Now, we've already had 2 lots of harvest off these plants, but as you can see, there is plenty to take. I'm going to take quite a big harvest off this today. Now, we've already got 2 bags. We've already got 2 bags of this in the actual fridge, but I'm actually going to prep this for the freezer, so we've got access to some nice fresh purple sprout and broccoli for another few months at least, because it never lasts that long. So windy today. Now, I'm hoping to get multiple different pickings off this purple sprout and broccoli. It takes so long to grow, and there is always a massive risk of losing it partway through growing. That it's always an excitement at this time of year. There's not much else growing and it's known as the hungry gap. So being able to have something fresh and in my eyes it tastes absolutely fantastic is really nice. It kind of spurs you on. And this is the small harvest that we've got today. Now, these are smaller ones than when we first took out the middle of the actual purple sprout and broccoli. They're still just as good though. And I love the fact that it's not just a one-time harvest. It will give you produce for over a month, depending on the health of your plant. And after it has finished and stopped giving us any broccoli, It will then be completely chopped up and put on the compost pile, which in my eyes, it's just another great way to benefit the allotment. Now, because it's quite early in the season, it is quite meagre pickings. For us anyway, we didn't really overgrow anything through the winter on this plot this year, or last year. But I have got a load of freshly picked spinach, which was planted last year, overwintered absolutely fine. So I've got that, and I've also got my purple sprouting broccoli. And I reckon I can probably get some fresh eggs. Now, in my eyes, that will be a nice omelette with some fresh spinach and fresh grilled purple sprouting broccoli for my lunch today. Now, to go with that nice omelette, I'm actually going to do some raspberry leaf tea. I started doing this a couple of years ago, and raspberry leaf makes a really nice, refreshing tea. Just literally pick younger leaves and steep it in some boiling water. I really enjoy it. And again, it's another freebie from the allotment. So I think it's time for me to go home, have my spinach and purple sprouting broccoli omelette, because you can't work on an empty stomach.